Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Bullet Sports Spotlight. I'm Jen Maurer, Assistant Director of Athletic Communications here at Gettysburg College. And today we are featuring the Women's Track and Field program. And joining us today to talk about them is Assistant Coach Amanda Kerno, who's entering her third season with the program. And it is exciting to say that we have heard some great news a couple days ago that the Centennial Conference President's Council endorsed spring competition with an anticipated start day of March 20th, as long as conditions permit at competing institutions. So Amanda, when you first found out, what was your reactions and what were the reactions of the student athletes when you later saw them at practice on Friday?
We were really excited. I know all of our athletes were really excited. We're hoping to just move forward, in a safe manner, but being able to get the most out of the season that we are able to. So everybody's super, super ready now that we've been a year since our last race, essentially. So we're just really excited to get back out there.
Yeah, as you said, it's pretty much been a year since the last competition. Obviously, you were able to have indoor season in 2020, but unfortunately not able to have the outdoor season. And so kind of going with that, we're going to go backtrack a little bit. So during that time from March 2020 to really, I know some athletes came back in the fall, more obviously came back in the spring. So what were some ways that you were able to keep the women's track and team engaged and active during that time?
Yeah, so we as a coaching staff still came together and decided that we were going to send out training plans as if we were together, but obviously apart. So really just focusing on making sure that everybody was still doing as much as they possibly could. So we have the Strava set up, we use some Google Docs to make sure that people could input what they were doing, but also still just trying to be as engaged as we could with, each event group individually and being a team as a whole and trying to foster that, as much as you can while being in many different locations.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And kind of going with that, moving forward with this year's team, obviously you have a mixture of great upperclassmen with over just a handful of freshmen. What can you say about the team as a whole? And I know you've only been with them for just over a month now, as at least with as many as are on campus, but what can you say about them collectively as a whole?
So I think some of our upperclassmen have really been engaging with the younger students, trying to make them feel like they're part of the team, more so now that we're back together than even when we were apart, which I know they were doing some different things. But there's definitely, I think, this new fire that has lit underneath everybody, and they're really keeping each other accountable and motivated and trying to push for the best that they can all be. I know we're kind of in a shorter time span that we would like to be, but I think they're handling it pretty well. The experienced, older classmen are still making sure that they're showing up and putting in the work and setting a good example for some of our younger ones. And they're really going after it. So our younger classmen as well have committed to what we're doing. So I'm really hoping that we have a good showing once we're able to compete.
Yeah, and then I was just going to ask too, again, just being with them for just a little bit over a month, how has practices been? And I'm sure Fridays was probably even better knowing that there was going to be a season as well.
Yeah, so they've obviously not had as much time with us as they normally would have, but we're starting to see, even through just the couple weeks that we've been back together, a progression in their abilities and starting to click back into their routines, and that little progression of, all right, maybe you didn't come in the best shape, but we've already seen strides of where they've been and where they're going. So we're just keeping working forward and pushing them and each other and hoping for the best come a step on the line.
Yeah, in between our great athletic training staff and our strength and conditioning coaches as well, they've been doing a great job in putting the student athletes in certain phases to be able to get out and perform as much as they can as a team. So moving into the next question, so what are some of the goals and expectations for this team in 2021?
We're just going to do the best that we can. Obviously, everybody, no matter what school you went to, has been dealing with the same thing. But just making sure that we're able to kind of pick up where we left off, if able, and see those little like strides that they're making in either their own personal event or as a whole, just watching them grow and get better together. So we're just hoping for good results.
Yeah, and right now we don't have the exact schedule. Again, anticipated date is for March 20th, but make sure we'll keep everyone up to date as when people can start competing. But just hearing the word competing is exciting. And I think that's a common word that we're going to hear a lot of lately.
Yes.
So, Amanda, obviously you are entering your third year coaching at Gettysburg, and it's been a very interesting one to say the least with a pandemic in the way of it. But looking at, again, being here, what have been some of your favorite type moments or things that you've really just enjoyed at Gettysburg?
So I don't know about other people's experiences and teams that they've come from, but being on this one, we've really made a push, not just the coaches, but also the athletes to always be supporting other event groups. On some programs being, you're one team, but you're kind of separated. They've really made an effort to make sure that they've connected through each event group and they're supporting each other. So I think that's one of my favorite things is just seeing the camaraderie and the overall arching friendships that everybody has, no matter what event group that they're a part of. So I do think that's one of my favorite things.
And then also, if you feel, go ahead and explain, what were one of the reasons for you getting into coaching? Obviously, you're a former student athlete as well. Was that one of the main motivations, or was there a certain particular person that kind of helped you in that direction?
I think, well, my old coach, I had seen him at regionals in, I guess it's 2019. We were kind of talking a little bit, and he brought something up that I guess I kind of really didn't think about it in the moment, was that you learn things maybe that you would have done a little bit differently, that you just feel like you're not finished with stuff. So kind of passing that on. Obviously, I've always been kind of invested in running. I think I touched on this the last time that we spoke, was, giving some things that maybe I have learned along the way back, or what I didn't know. So just tweaking things as you go and as you learn, and being able to give that to new coming athletes and even athletes that you already have, just kind of figuring things out as you go. So it's always a learning process, but that's what makes it fun and interesting and what keeps people around so long, I think, is that there's room to grow, not even as an athlete, but also as a coach.
Absolutely. And so moving on to the pretty much last question I have for you, Amanda, is what do you see as the future of the women's track and field program at Gettysburg?
So I think that they are definitely making improvements, and where we've kind of had some individuals that I guess I'll say like a little spark in them more than others, we're starting to see that spread. So I think as a whole, they're becoming more invested and involved with what they're doing. So they're taking more responsibility, and that shows in the output of the work that they've been doing. So I think over the next coming years, we're really going to look at a surge in not only individual performances, but as our standing as a team as a whole.
Well, thank you, Amanda, for joining us today on another Bullet Sport Spotlight. And make sure to stay tuned to see what's going to be happening, when you can expect teams to be playing. And so until next time, thank you again for joining us, and take care and go Bullets.
Thank you. You too.